Hey fellow nerds, today we are going to learn the rest of the properties of discrete time Fourier transform. We will be covering the convolution property, multiplication property, Parseval's relation. In addition to all of these, we'll also learn how to analyze LTI systems using discrete time Fourier transform. Let us start with the convolution property. Assume we have a signal y of n. Y of n is the convolution of x of n and h of n. The Fourier transform of x of n is x of e raised to j omega, that of y of n is y of e raised to j omega, and that of h of n is h of e raised to j omega. Then according to this property, y of e raised to j omega will be the product of x of e raised to j omega and h of e raised to j omega. Let us try to prove this. The first thing is y of n is the convolution of x of n and h of n. So we can write y of n is equal to summation from k equals minus infinity to infinity x of k h of n minus k. Let us write the Fourier transform of y of n, y of e raised to j omega. It will be summation from n equals minus infinity to infinity y of n e raised to minus j omega n. But y of n is this whole thing. Let us replace y of n by that. We have two summations here. One is with respect to n and the other is with respect to k. Let us change their order. The inner summation is now with respect to n. X of k doesn't have anything to do with n, so it can come out of that summation. Now over here we have summation from n equals minus infinity to infinity h of n minus k e raised to minus j omega n. Let us take it out. To simplify this, let us use our trick. Take n minus k is equal to m. Then this becomes, if n can take any integer value from minus infinity to infinity, then m, which is n minus something, will also take any integer value from minus infinity to infinity. So we can write summation from m equals minus infinity to infinity, h of n minus k becomes m, e to the power minus j omega n is now m plus k. We have e raised to minus j omega m plus k. It can be split into two. E raised to minus j omega m multiplied by e raised to minus j omega k. Let us do that. Now let us take this expression and replace this one with that. Then y of e raised to j omega will look like this. Again, the inner summation is with respect to the variable m. So e raised to minus j omega k can come out of that summation. We know it doesn't matter what we call the variable to which we are giving the limit. So we have m here, you could just call it n also. We have k here, you could just call that also n. So basically what you have over here is simply x of e raised to j omega. And what you have over here is h of e raised to j omega. So we can write y of e raised to j omega is simply the product of x of e raised to j omega and h of e raised to j omega, which is exactly what we have written over here. So convolution in the time domain becomes multiplication in the frequency domain. Let us solve a problem based on this. We have an LTI system whose impulse response h of n is delta of n minus n naught. We have to find the output for an input x of n. Impulse response of the system is given, h of n is delta of n minus n naught. So we can find the frequency response by taking its Fourier transform. The frequency response h of e raised to j omega is going to be summation from n equals minus infinity to infinity h of n e raised to minus j omega n. But h of n is delta of n minus n naught. Let us replace it. Now delta of n minus n naught is non-zero only at n equals n naught. So there is no point in taking summation from n equals minus infinity to infinity, because only for one value of n this product is non-zero. So we will just take the value of that product at n equal to n naught, which is equal to delta of n minus n naught at n equal to n naught is 1. e raised to minus j omega n at n equal to n naught is e raised to minus j omega n naught. This is the frequency response of our LTI system. We are giving an input x of n. So let us take its Fourier transform to be x of e raised to j omega. According to convolution property, we know y of e raised to j omega, that is the Fourier transform of the output y of n, is going to be the product of h of e raised to j omega and x of e raised to j omega. So here it is going to be e to the power minus j omega n naught multiplied by x of e raised to j omega. Now to find y of n, we have to take the inverse Fourier transform. For that, let us take the time shifting property that we have learned. According to this, the Fourier transform of x of n minus n naught, that is a time shifted version of x of n, is e raised to minus j omega n naught x of e raised to j omega. This is exactly what we have got here, which means the output y of n should be just a time shifted version of x of n, which is x of n minus n naught. Let us verify if this is true. It is given in the question that the impulse response is delta of n minus n naught. Now, impulse response is the output of the system when the input is an impulse function. That is, when we gave an input delta of n, we got an output delta of n minus n naught. So, when we give x of n as the input, naturally we should be getting x of n minus n naught. And that is exactly what we have got here. So that verifies our solution. Let us solve another question. Here we have to determine the impulse response of the discrete time low pass filter. For that, let me take the frequency spectrum of a discrete time low pass filter whose cutoff frequency is omega c. So from omega c to minus omega c, the gain is 1. And since this is a discrete time low pass filter, the Fourier transform keeps repeating at every integer multiple of 2 pi. What we have to find is the impulse response. So we have to find the inverse Fourier transform of x of e raised to j omega. So let us use the synthesis equation. So h of n will be equal to 1 by 2 pi integral over an interval of 2 pi h of e raised to j omega e to the power j omega n d omega. Here the integration can be across any interval of 2 pi. So for our convenience, let us take it from minus pi to pi. If you look at the graph between minus pi and pi, all we have is this much. It is 1 between minus omega c and plus omega c. It is 0 everywhere else. So instead of taking integration from minus pi to pi, we can simply take it from minus omega c to omega c. If we do that, this becomes 1 by 2 pi integral from minus omega c to omega c. Between minus omega c and omega c, the value of h of e raised to j omega is 1. So we can put 1 multiplied by e to the power j omega n d omega. So we have to integrate an exponential function. This will be equal to 1 by 2 pi integral of e raised to j omega n with respect to the variable omega. So the coefficient of omega here is jn. Therefore, the integral will become 1 by jn e raised to j omega n, giving the limits from minus omega c to plus omega c. So we can write 1 by j 2 pi n, giving the upper limit e to the power j omega c n minus giving the lower limit e raised to minus j omega c n. Let us use Euler's formula again. If you expand these two with Euler's formula and take their difference, you will get 2j sine omega c n. So we can write h of n is equal to 2j sine omega c n divided by j 2 pi n. We have a 2j on the numerator and a 2j in the denominator. They both can be cancelled. If we do that, h of n simply becomes sine omega c n divided by pi n. Let us put this in a box. So impulse response of a discrete time low pass filter whose cutoff frequency is omega c is simply sine omega c n divided by pi n. If we plot this on a graph, this is how it will look like. Let us solve another problem. We have an LTI system. Its impulse response h of n is alpha to the power n u of n. Magnitude of alpha is less than 1. We have to find the output for an input x of n. The input x of n is beta raised to the power n u of n. Magnitude of beta is less than 1. In the discrete time Fourier transform video, we already solved a problem that gave us the Fourier transform of alpha raised to n u of n if magnitude of alpha is less than 1 is 1 by 1 minus alpha e raised to minus j omega. Let us use it over here. H of n is alpha raised to n u of n. So we can write its Fourier transform h of e raised to j omega is going to be 1 by 1 minus alpha a raised to minus j omega. The same way, x of n is beta raised to n u of n and magnitude of beta is less than 1. So we can write x of e raised to j omega is going to be 1 by 1 minus beta a raised to minus j omega. Let us take the first case, case 1, where alpha is not equal to beta. Using the convolution property, we can write Fourier transform of the output y of e raised to j omega is going to be the product of h of e raised to j omega and x of e raised to j omega. So here it is going to be 1 by 1 minus alpha a raised to j omega multiplied by 1 by 1 minus beta a raised to minus j omega. Let us use partial fraction expansion to write this in the form a divided by 1 minus alpha e raised to minus j omega plus b divided by 1 minus beta e raised to minus j omega. For simplicity, I am going to call e raised to minus j omega z. The pole corresponding to this term will be when 1 minus alpha z is equal to 0, that is z is equal to 1 by alpha. To get the pole corresponding to this, we have to write 1 minus beta z is equal to 0 or z is equal to 1 by beta. Now to find a, we have to take limit z tends to the pole 1 by alpha, 1 minus alpha z multiplied by y of e raised to j omega. This is going to be limit z tends to 1 by alpha, 1 by 1 minus beta z. If we give the value 1 by alpha to z, this will become 1 by 1 minus beta divided by alpha or alpha divided by alpha minus beta. The same way we can find b also. B will be limit z tends to the pole corresponding to that term 1 by beta, 1 minus beta z multiplied by y of e raised to j omega. Now this will be limit z tends to 1 by beta, 1 by 1 minus alpha z. Now if we give z equal to 1 by beta, this becomes 1 by 1 minus alpha by beta, or we can write beta divided by beta minus alpha. Instead of this, let's write it this way, minus beta divided by alpha minus beta, so that the denominators of both coefficients will be the same. Now let us replace a and b with what we found. If we do that, this is what we get. Y of e raised to j omega is alpha by alpha minus beta multiplied by 1 by 1 minus alpha e raised to minus j omega minus beta by alpha minus beta multiplied by 1 by 1 minus beta e raised to minus j omega. Since alpha and beta are constants, alpha by alpha minus beta and beta by alpha minus beta are also constants. So to find y of n, we can use inverse Fourier transform. We can write y of n is equal to, since alpha by alpha minus beta is a constant, we can just write it here. We already know inverse Fourier transform of 1 by 1 minus alpha e raised to minus j omega is alpha raised to n u of n. So here we get alpha raised to n u of n minus beta by alpha minus beta is a constant. Inverse Fourier transform of 1 by 1 minus beta e raised to minus j omega will be beta to the power n u of n. So this is the output of our LTI system if alpha is not equal to beta. Let us take the second case where alpha is equal to beta. In that case, h of e raised to j omega and x of e raised to j omega will be equal. So if we write y of e raised to j omega, it will be the product of h of e raised to j omega and x of e raised to j omega. But since alpha is equal to beta, we can write this as 1 by 1 minus alpha e raised to minus j omega to the power 2. Now to find y of n, we have to find the inverse Fourier transform of this. Now this is of the form 1 by 1 minus alpha e raised to minus j omega squared. This reminds me of the differentiation property. I'm sure we can use it somewhere. So to check it, I'm going to find d by d omega of 1 by 1 minus alpha e raised to minus j omega. It is going to be minus 1 by 1 minus alpha e raised to minus j omega squared multiplied by the differentiation of the denominator. It is minus alpha e raised to minus j omega multiplied by minus j. There is a minus here, there is a minus here. Let us cancel them. Let us take j and alpha to the other side. It will become 1 by j alpha. So we get 1 by j alpha d by d omega of 1 by 1 minus alpha e raised to minus j omega is equal to minus 1 by 1 minus alpha e raised to minus j omega squared multiplied by e to the power minus j omega. Now 1 by j is the same as minus j. Let us replace it. We have a minus here, we have a minus here. Let us cancel them. We have e raised to minus j omega here. Let's take it to the other side. It will become e raised to plus j omega. Now the right hand side of this equation is exactly whose inverse Fourier transform we have to find out. So we can say y of e raised to j omega is e to the power j omega j by alpha d by d omega 1 by 1 minus alpha e raised to minus j omega. Now let us use the differentiation in frequency domain property. Before that, we already know the Fourier transform of alpha raised to n u of n if alpha has a magnitude less than 1 is 1 by 1 minus alpha e raised to minus j omega. If we apply the frequency differentiation property on this, we get that the Fourier transform of n multiplied by alpha raised to n u of n is j multiplied by d omega of 1 by 1 minus alpha e raised to minus j omega. So on the right hand side, I got g d by d omega of 1 by 1 minus alpha e raised to j omega. So I have got this much. So I am going to divide both sides by alpha to get this. Then it will become like this. Fourier transform of n alpha raised to n u of n divided by alpha will be j by alpha d by d omega of 1 by 1 minus alpha e raised to minus j omega. Now I have taken this much. The only thing to add is e raised to j omega, but that is time shifting property. We know if x of e raised to j omega is the Fourier transform of x of n, then e raised to j omega n naught x of e raised to j omega is the Fourier transform of x of n minus n naught. Here the Fourier transform is multiplied by e to the power j omega. So n naught here is 1. That means if this is our x of n, we have to take x of n minus n naught being 1. So we need x of n minus 1, which means we have to change all these n's into n minus 1. If we do that, this is what we get. J by alpha e raised to j omega d by d omega of 1 by 1 minus alpha e raised to minus j omega is the Fourier transform of n plus 1 alpha raised to n plus 1 u of n plus 1 divided by alpha. But we have an alpha over here and an alpha raised to n plus 1 over here. We can cancel one alpha each. If we do that, we get our final output y of n is equal to n plus 1 alpha raised to n u of n plus 1. Now we know u of n plus 1 is 1 from n equals minus 1 to infinity. But at n equals minus 1, we have an n plus 1 term over here that will be equal to 0. So that means y of n is going to be 0 at n equals minus 1 anyways. So we don't really have to write u of n plus 1. Even if you write u of n, it is going to be the same. So we can write y of n is equal to n plus 1 alpha raised to n u of n. This is the final output of our LTI system if alpha is equal to beta. Let us solve another problem. We have to find the frequency response of the system given in the figure. Our input is x of n. It is multiplied by minus 1 to the power n, and the output is w1 of n. w1 of n is the input of a low pass filter whose frequency response is HLP of e raised to j omega. The output of the low pass filter is w2 of n. It is again multiplied by minus 1 to the power n. The output we get is w3 of n, and it is added with whatever is coming from here, w4 of n. W4 of n is the output of a low pass filter whose frequency response is HLP of e raised to j omega when the input is x of n. Finally, the output is y of n. We have to find the frequency response of this whole system. The first thing we have to consider is the minus 1 to the power n we have at both these places. Using Euler's formula, we can write e to the power j pi is cos pi plus j sin pi. Cos pi is minus 1, sin pi is 0. So e to the power j pi is minus 1. So instead of writing minus 1 to the power n, we can write e raised to j pi n. w1 of n is x of n multiplied by minus 1 raised to n. So we can write w1 of n is actually x of n multiplied by e to the power j pi n. To find the Fourier transform of w1 of n, let us use the frequency shifting property. We know if the Fourier transform of x of n is x of e raised to j omega, then the Fourier transform of e raised to j omega naught n multiplied by x of n will be x of e raised to j omega minus omega naught. This is a frequency shifting property. And that is exactly what we have here. Here omega naught is pi. So we can write w1 of e raised to j omega. The Fourier transform of w1 of n is going to be x of e raised to j omega minus pi. Now w1 of n is given as an input to a low pass filter whose frequency response is HLP of e raised to j omega. The output is w2 of n. We know the output is going to be the convolution of the input and impulse response. So using convolution property, Fourier transform of the output is going to be Fourier transform of the input multiplied by the frequency response of the low pass filter. So we can write the Fourier transform of w2 of n. w2 of e raised to j omega is going to be Fourier transform of w1 of n, that is w1 of e raised to j omega multiplied by frequency response of the low pass filter HLP of e raised to j omega. But we already found this. It is x of e raised to j omega minus pi. Let us replace it. Now w3 of n is w2 of n multiplied by minus 1 raised to n. So we can again use frequency shifting property to write what is the Fourier transform of w3 of n. First, let's write down w3 of n is minus 1 to the power n, or e raised to j pi n multiplied by w2 of n. So by using frequency shifting property, we can write w3 of e raised to j omega is going to be w2 of e raised to j omega minus pi. We already have w2 of e raised to j omega here. So to get w2 of e raised to j omega minus pi, we have to change all omegas into omega minus pi. Then this will become x of e raised to j, omega becomes omega minus pi. And there is another minus pi, so that will become omega minus 2 pi HLP of e to the power j omega minus pi. But we know discrete time Fourier transform is periodic with a period 2 pi. So x of e raised to j omega minus 2 pi will be equal to x of e raised to j omega. Let us replace it. Now we need the Fourier transform of W4 of n. W4 of n is the output of a low-pass filter of frequency response HLP of e raised to j omega and input x of n. So we can use convolution property. According to this property, Fourier transform of W4 of n will be the product of Fourier transform of x of n and the frequency response of our low-pass filter. So we can write W4 of e raised to j omega is x of e raised to j omega multiplied by frequency response of the low-pass filter HLP of e raised to j omega. Now, y of n is the sum of W4 of n and W3 of n. And we already found the Fourier transform of W3 of n and W4 of n. So let us write down y of n, or the final output of the system, is W3 of n plus W4 of n. So by using linearity property, we can write y of e raised to j omega will be W3 of e raised to j omega plus W4 of e raised to j omega. We have already found both of these. If we substitute what we found, this is what we get. This is W3 of e raised to j omega. This is W4 of e raised to j omega. Both have x of e raised to j omega in it. Let us take it as common. So we get y of e raised to j omega is x of e raised to j omega multiplied by HLP of e raised to j omega minus pi plus HLP of e raised to j omega. But we know for any LTI system, y of e raised to j omega is x of e raised to j omega multiplied by the frequency response h of e raised to j omega. If we compare this equation with this equation, we have y of e raised to j omega, we have x of e raised to j omega. So this has to be the equivalent frequency response of the whole system. Let us try to plot it on a graph. The second part is HLP of e raised to j omega, which is the frequency response of our low-pass filter. It is given in the question that HLP of e raised to j omega is a low-pass filter of cutoff frequency pi by 4 and gain 1. Its frequency spectrum will look like this. Its gain is 1 from minus pi by 4 to plus pi by 4. Since this is discrete time Fourier transform, this is going to repeat at every multiple of 2 pi. Now, here we have HLP of e raised to j omega minus pi. This is only a frequency shifted version of HLP of e raised to j omega. It should be shifted pi units. So this is how it will look like. It is at pi. Again, since this is discrete time Fourier transform, this has to repeat at every multiple of 2 pi. So we will get 1 over here also. Now, there are certain things we can note from here. The blue part is at omega equal to 0 and it will repeat itself at every multiple of 2 pi. And we know the frequencies that are even multiples of 2 pi are considered low frequencies. And frequencies that are odd multiples of pi are considered high frequencies. But we also have the frequency spectrum at odd multiples of pi. That means h of e raised to j omega is letting through low frequencies and also high frequencies. That is because HLP of e raised to j omega is obviously a low pass filter, so it is letting low frequencies go through it. But we learned in the previous video, HLP of e raised to j omega minus pi is the frequency response of a high pass filter. So that is why h of e raised to j omega, which is a combination of these two, is also letting the high frequencies pass through it. So we can conclude the system passes both low and high frequencies. But it is actually stopping the frequencies between the two pass bands. So we can say h of e raised to j omega is actually the frequency response of a band stop filter. It is stopping all the frequencies between pi by 4 and 3 pi by 4 and minus pi by 4 and minus 3 pi by 4. So we can say the stop band region of this band stop filter is magnitude of omega being between pi by 4 and 3 pi by 4. Let us go to the next property. It is multiplication property. Assume we have a signal y of n. It is the product of two signals x1 of n and x2 of n. The Fourier transform of a signal x of n is given as x of e raised to j omega, and that of y of n is y of e raised to j omega. So for x1 of n and x2 of n, we can take x1 of e raised to j omega and x2 of e raised to j omega. Then according to this property, y of e raised to j omega will be equal to 1 by 2 pi integral over an interval of 2 pi x1 of e raised to j theta multiplied by x2 of e raised to j omega minus theta d theta. The right hand side of the equation is familiar to us. It is nothing but the periodic convolution of x1 of e raised to j omega and x2 of e raised to j omega. I said periodic convolution because the integration is across an interval 2 pi. Usually for convolution we take from minus infinity to infinity. In that case we can call it aperiodic convolution. But here it is periodic convolution. Let us try to prove this. We know y of e raised to j omega can be written as summation from n equals minus infinity to infinity y of n e raised to minus j omega n. But y of n is the product of x1 of n and x2 of n. Let us replace it. Let us use synthesis equation to write x1 of n. x1 of n will be equal to 1 by 2 pi integral over an interval of 2 pi x of e raised to j theta e raised to j theta n d theta. I have taken the variable theta because we have already taken omega over here. So I want to be able to differentiate which terms came from which one. Also, we already know it doesn't matter what we call these variables because we are going to give them limits anyway. Let us substitute x1 of n in this equation by what we have over here. Then y of e raised to j omega will become this. We have an integration and a summation. First, let's take 1 by 2 pi out since it is a constant. Now let's take d theta from here and put it at the end. Let us now change the order of the summation and the integration. The summation is with respect to the variable n. So x1 of e raised to j theta, which doesn't have anything to do with n, can come out of it. We have e raised to j theta n, e raised to minus j omega n. We can combine them as e raised to j omega minus theta n. Let us do that. Now what we have over here is summation from n equals minus infinity to infinity x2 of n e raised to j omega minus theta n. If we had e raised to j omega n, we would call it x2 of e raised to j omega. But since we have omega minus theta, we are going to call it x2 of e raised to j omega minus theta. Then y of e raised to j omega becomes 1 by 2 pi integral over an interval of 2 pi x1 of e raised to j theta x2 of e raised to j omega minus theta d theta. And that is exactly what we have written over here. It is the periodic convolution of the Fourier transforms of x1 of n and x2 of n. Let us now solve a problem. We have to find the Fourier transform of x of n. X of n is the product of x1 of n and x2 of n. x1 of n is given, it is sine 3 pi n by 4 divided by pi n. x2 of n is also given, it is sine pi n by 2 divided by pi n. We have already learned that impulse response of a low-pass filter is of the form sine omega c n divided by pi n. Both x1 of n and x2 of n are of this form. So both of them have to be impulse responses of low-pass filters. From the first one, we can see the cutoff frequency is 3 pi by 4. From the second one, we can see its cutoff frequency is pi by 2. If we plot their frequency responses, this is how it will look like. Now, x of n is the product of x1 of n and x2 of n. So, x of e raised to j omega will be the periodic convolution of x1 of e raised to j omega and x2 of e raised to j omega. So, we can write x of e raised to j omega is equal to 1 by 2 pi integral from minus pi to pi x1 of e raised to j theta multiplied by x2 of e raised to j omega minus theta d theta. We can do a trick here. The convolution is only from minus pi to pi. That is from here to here. Between minus pi and pi, we only have this. So we can take a function that is equal to 1 period of x1 of e raised to j omega. This function is anyway 0 everywhere else. So instead of taking summation from minus pi to pi, we can take from minus infinity to infinity. It won't make a difference. So this is equal to 1 by 2 pi integral from minus infinity to infinity of 1 period of x1 of e raised to j theta multiplied by x2 of e raised to j omega minus theta d theta. The modified function can be defined like this. It is equal to x1 of e raised to j omega between minus pi and pi, that is for 1 period. Everywhere else it is 0. Now to get x of e raised to j omega, we just have to take the convolution of these two. For that, first you have to take the reversal of x2 of e raised to j omega. But since this is symmetric with respect to the y-axis, the reversal is going to look exactly the same. Now you have to take x2 of e raised to j omega, slide it from one end of x1 of e raised to j omega. Whenever they overlap, multiply and then keep adding them. If you do that, the output is going to look like this. Let us go to the next property, Parseval's relation. Assume we have a signal x of n, its Fourier transform is x of e raised to j omega. Then according to this property, summation from n equals minus infinity to infinity, magnitude of x of n squared will be equal to 1 by 2 pi integral over an interval of 2 pi magnitude of x of e raised to j omega squared d omega. Before we prove it, let us understand what it means. On the left hand side of the equation, we have summation from n equals minus infinity to infinity magnitude of x of n whole square. But this is how we have defined the energy of a discrete time signal x of n. So what we have on the left hand side is simply the energy of the signal x of n. On the right hand side, we have 1 by 2 pi integral over an interval 2 pi magnitude of x of e raised to j omega squared d omega. Here magnitude of x of e raised to j omega squared will be the energy of one component signal x of e raised to j omega. But if we take energy of a component signal per unit frequency, since we are taking the integration over an interval of 2 pi, we can write it as magnitude of x of e raised to j omega squared divided by 2 pi. Here magnitude of x of e raised to j omega squared can be called the energy density spectrum of x of n. And if we integrate it over an interval 2 pi, which is 1 period, we get the total energy in the Fourier transform. So we can conclude, according to Parseval's relation, energy of a signal x of n can be determined by integrating the energy per unit frequency over 1 period, which is 2 pi. Let us try to prove this. We'll start from the left hand side. We have 1 by 2 pi integral over an interval of 2 pi magnitude of x of e raised to j omega squared d omega. Using analysis equation, we can write x of e raised to j omega to be summation from n equals minus infinity to infinity x of n e raised to minus j omega n. Let us substitute it with that. Then this becomes 1 by 2 pi integral over an interval of 2 pi magnitude of summation from n equals minus infinity to infinity x of n e to the power minus j omega n squared d omega. Now this can be written as 1 by 2 pi integral over an interval of 2 pi summation from n equals minus infinity to infinity magnitude of x of n e raised to minus j omega n squared d omega. Wait, did I just write magnitude of summation is equal to summation of magnitude? Usually it is wrong, right? We know a plus b whole square is not equal to a square plus b square. In fact, there is an extra term 2ab. Let us consider two vectors a and b. So a vector plus b vector whole square will be A dot A plus B dot B plus 2A dot B. A dot A will be the square of magnitude of A vector. B dot B will be the square of magnitude of B vector. We have a third term, 2A dot B. Assume A and B are orthogonal vectors. That means their dot product will be 0. In that particular case, A plus B whole square will be equal to A square plus B square. Let us compare it with what we have over here. Here the function is x of n e raised to minus j omega n. E raised to minus j omega n is e raised to minus j k omega naught n. It is the set of orthogonal signals that we have taken. Giving different values for k, you get so many exponential functions, and we learned all of them are orthogonal to each other. We are multiplying it with x of n, but it is just its coefficient, it is just a constant. Here I have written square of magnitude of the summation is the same as summation of square of the magnitude, because our function here are orthogonal and therefore their inner product is 0. Just like if the dot product is 0, we get a plus b whole square is a square plus b square. Let us take e raised to minus j omega n out. E raised to minus j omega n using Euler's formula is cos omega n minus j sine omega n. So its magnitude is going to be magnitude of cos omega n minus j sine omega n, which is root of cos square omega n plus sine square omega n, which is root of 1 or 1. So magnitude of this part is just 1. Let us replace it with 1. Now we have an integration and we have a summation. Let us change their order. The integration is with respect to the variable omega. X of n doesn't have anything to do with omega. So magnitude of x of n whole square can come out of the integration. Now this becomes 1 by 2 pi summation from n equals minus infinity to infinity magnitude of x of n whole square. Integral d omega is omega. Limit can be any period of 2 pi. Let us take it from 0 to 2 pi. Then this will become 1 by 2 pi summation from n equals minus infinity to infinity magnitude of x of n squared. Giving the limits, that becomes 2 pi minus 0. Now 2 pi over here and 2 pi over here can be cancelled. So we get summation from n equals minus infinity to infinity magnitude of x of n whole square, which is our LHS. Let us now solve a problem based on this. We have to determine whether the signal x of n is periodic, real, even, and or of finite energy. X of n is not given, but magnitude of its Fourier transform is given. Phase of its Fourier transform is also given. We have learned that Fourier transforms of periodic signals are of this form: summation from k equals minus infinity to infinity 2 pi ak delta of omega minus k 2 pi by n. That is, we have impulses at every multiple of 2 pi by n and their magnitudes are 2 pi ak, which means for a periodic signal the Fourier transform should only have impulses. But over here it is very clear this is not just impulses. So we can conclude the signal x of n is not periodic. From the conjugate symmetry property, we learned that for a real valued function, x of e raised to j omega is even and phase of x of e raised to j omega is odd. That is, x of e raised to j omega will be equal to x of e raised to minus j omega, and phase of x of e raised to j omega is negative of phase of x of e raised to minus j omega. Here you can see x of e raised to j omega is symmetric with respect to the y-axis, so it is even. Also, we can see the phase of x of e raised to j omega is antisymmetric with respect to the y-axis, so it is odd. So we can conclude x of n is a real valued signal. We got that x of n is real, but we have already learned if x of n is real and even, then x of e raised to j omega should also be real and even. Here obviously x of e raised to j omega is not real because along with the magnitude it also has a phase. So x of e raised to j omega is even, but it is not real. So since we have already found out x of n is real, we'll have to conclude that it is not even. Now we know energy of a signal x of n is given by summation from n equals minus infinity to infinity magnitude of x of n whole square. But according to Parseval's theorem, we can find it directly from the Fourier transform also. It will be equal to 1 by 2 pi integral over 1 interval of 2 pi magnitude of x of e raised to j omega squared d omega. From the graph, we can see x of e raised to j omega is a finite duration signal. That is, it only ranges from minus pi to pi. So if you integrate the square of its magnitude from minus pi to pi, you will get the square of the area under the graph, which is finite. So we can write this is going to be equal to a finite value. And therefore, we can conclude x of n has finite energy. So x of n is not periodic, it is real, but it is not even, and it has finite energy. Now that we are done with all the properties of discrete time Fourier transform, let us see how we can use it to analyze LTI systems that are characterized by difference equations. Let us start by considering an LTI system whose input is x of n and output is y of n. Let us take a general linear constant coefficient difference equation for the system. It will be of this form: a0 y of n plus a1 y of n minus 1 plus a2 y of n minus 2 plus, assume there are n terms like that. This is equal to, on the other side, we'll take the x components. Let us call the coefficients b in that case. So we get b0 x of n plus b1 x of n minus 1 plus, let's assume there are m terms on this side. We can write it as a summation. Then we'll get summation from k equals 0 to n a k y of n minus k. This will be the left hand side. This is equal to, on the right hand side there are m terms. So we can write summation from k equals 0 to m b k x of n minus k. This is the general linear constant coefficient difference equation for an LTI system. We can call it the nth order difference equation because the maximum value of k for y of n is n. We have an LTI system whose input is x of n and output is y of n. In the time domain, we can define it like this. Input of the system is x of n, output of the system is y of n. Let us take the impulse response to be h of n. Impulse response is the output of the system when the input is an impulse function. Now, they can be related like this. The output y of n is the convolution of x of n and h of n. Now, let's take the same system in the frequency domain. Input will be x of e raised to j omega, which is the Fourier transform of x of n. Output will be y of e raised to j omega, which is the Fourier transform of y of n. Frequency response is h of e raised to j omega, which is the Fourier transform of x of n. Then they are related like this. Y of e raised to j omega will be equal to the product of x of e raised to j omega and h of e raised to j omega. We saw a discrete time LTI system is defined by a linear constant coefficient difference equation, and its general form is this. This can be expanded like this: a0 y of n plus a1 y of n minus 1 plus up to a n y of n minus n is equal to b0 x of n plus b1 x of n minus 1 plus up to bm x of n minus m. Let us take Fourier transform on both sides. Using linearity property, we get a0 Fourier transform of y of n, it is y of e raised to j omega plus a1 Fourier transform of y of n minus 1. Let us use time shifting property. Then Fourier transform of y of n minus 1 will be e raised to minus j omega y of e raised to j omega plus Fourier transform of the nth term will be a n y of n minus n. Using time shifting property, its Fourier transform will be e raised to minus j omega n y of e raised to j omega. This is equal to, on the right hand side we get b0 Fourier transform of x of n x of e raised to j omega plus b1 Fourier transform of x of n minus 1 e raised to minus j omega multiplied by x of e raised to j omega plus the mth term is going to be am e raised to minus j omega m x of e raised to j omega. On the left hand side, every term has y of e raised to j omega. Let us take it out as common. Then this becomes y of e raised to j omega multiplied by a0 plus a1 e raised to minus j omega plus up to an e raised to minus j omega n. This is equal to, on the right hand side, every term has x of e raised to j omega. Let us take it out as common. So we get x of e raised to j omega multiplied by b0 plus b1 e raised to minus j omega plus up to the mth term is bm e raised to minus j omega m. Now what we have over here and what we have over here can be written as summations. If we do that, it becomes y of e raised to j omega multiplied by summation from k equals 0 to n a k e raised to minus j k omega. This is equal to x of e raised to j omega multiplied by summation from k equals 0 to m, because there are m terms, bm e raised to minus j k omega. Now from here we can write y of e raised to j omega divided by x of e raised to j omega. It will be equal to summation from k equals 0 to m bm e raised to minus j omega divided by summation from k equals 0 to n a k e raised to minus j k omega. But we already know y of e raised to j omega by x of e raised to j omega is h of e raised to j omega. So we get an expression for h of e raised to j omega. Let us put it in a box. Let us consider e raised to minus j omega to be x, just for fun. Then whatever you have over here can be written like this. a0 plus a1x plus a2x square plus up to an x raised to n. Whatever you have here can be written like this. b0 plus b1x plus b2x square plus up to bmx raised to m. But this is the form of a polynomial, right? So we can say the numerator of this equation is actually an mth order polynomial, but not in x, it is in e raised to minus j omega. We can also say the denominator is actually an nth order polynomial in e raised to minus j omega. Let us solve a problem. We have to find the impulse response of a causal LTI system. It is characterized by the difference equation y of n minus a y of n minus 1 is x of n. Magnitude of a is less than 1. We know h of e raised to j omega will be of this form. That is b0 plus b0 e raised to j omega plus etc. up to n terms divided by a0 plus a0 e raised to minus j omega plus up to m terms. We can actually write the frequency response of the LTI system defined by this difference equation simply by inspection. Let us see how we can do that. H of e raised to j omega is equal to, on the right hand side we only have x of n. Its coefficient is 1. So we only have b0 which is 1. So we'll get 1 divided by, on the left hand side we have y of n which corresponds to k equal to 0 and its coefficient is 1. So we have a0 which is 1. So 1. There is minus a y of n minus 1. This corresponds to k equals 1. Coefficient is minus a. So minus a e raised to minus j omega. This will be the frequency response of our LTI system. We already know that the Fourier transform of a raised to n u of n, if magnitude of a is less than 1, is 1 by 1 minus a e raised to minus j omega, which is exactly what we have got over here. So we can write the impulse response h of n will be equal to a raised to n u of n. Let us solve another problem. We have to find the impulse response of a causal LTI system that is characterized by the difference equation y of n minus 3 by 4 y of n minus 1 plus 1 by 8 y of n minus 2. This is equal to 2x of n. Let us try to do this purely by inspection. Frequency response h of e raised to j omega will be, on the right hand side we simply have 2x of n. X of n corresponds to k equal to 0. So e raised to j k omega is just 1. Coefficient is 2. So we get 2 divided by, for y of n the coefficient is 1. So 1. For y of n minus 1 coefficient is minus 3 by 4. So minus 3 by 4 e raised to minus j omega. For y of n minus 2 coefficient is 1 by 8. So 1 by 8 e raised to minus j 2 omega. This will be the frequency response of our LTI system. What we have to find is the impulse response. So we have to find the inverse Fourier transform of h of e raised to j omega. For that, let us factorize the denominator. H of e raised to j omega can be written as 2 divided by, let us take e raised to minus j omega to be x. Then that equation becomes 1 minus 3 by 4x plus 1 by 8x square. This can be written as, let's take 1 by 8 out. 1 by 8 times 8 minus 6x plus x square, or 1 by 8 x square minus 6x plus 8. Now this can be written as 1 by 8 multiplied by x minus 2 into x minus 4. Since x is e raised to minus j omega, we can write it like this: 1 by 8 e raised to minus j omega minus 2 multiplied by e raised to minus j omega minus 4. We can write it like this: I have written 8 as 2 multiplied by 4. Then we get 1 by 2 e raised to minus j omega minus 1 into 1 by 4 e raised to minus j omega minus 1. Or we can write 1 minus 1 by 2 e raised to minus j omega multiplied by 1 minus 1 by 4 e raised to minus j omega. Now we have to use partial fraction expansion to write h of e raised to j omega in the form a by 1 minus 1 by 2 e raised to minus j omega plus b by 1 minus 1 by 4 e raised to minus j omega. To make the math simple, let us take e raised to minus j omega to be z. To get the pole corresponding to this, we have to write 1 minus z by 2 is equal to 0, or z is equal to 2. To get the pole corresponding to this, we have to write 1 minus z by 4 is equal to 0, or z is equal to 4. We know how to find out a. A will be limit z tends to be the pole to 1 minus z by 2 multiplied by h of e raised to j omega. H of e raised to j omega is over here. If you multiply it with 1 minus z by 2, this term will be cancelled. So you get limit z tends to 2, 2 divided by 1 minus 1 by 4 z. If you give z equal to 2, this becomes 2 divided by 1 minus 2 by 4. A is equal to 4. We can also find out b. Limit z tends to the pole 4. 1 minus z by 4 multiplied by h of e raised to j omega. H of e raised to j omega is here. If you multiply it with 1 minus z by 4, this term will be cancelled and this is what you get. So we can write limit z tends to 4, 2 divided by 1 minus 1 by 2 z. If you give z equal to 4, this becomes 2 divided by 1 minus 4 by 2, or b is minus 2. Let us replace a by 4, b by minus 2, and z by e raised to minus j omega. Now, to get the impulse response, we have to find the inverse Fourier transform of h of e raised to j omega. For that, let us take the result. Fourier transform of a raised to n u of n, if magnitude of a is less than 1, is 1 by 1 minus a e raised to minus j omega. In the first case, a is 1 by 2, it is less than 1. In the second case, a is 1 by 4, it is also less than 1. So we can use this result. So we get h of n is equal to 4 times inverse Fourier transform of 1 by 1 minus 1 by 2 e raised to minus j omega will be 1 by 2 to the power n u of n minus 2 times 1 by 4 to the power n u of n. So this will be the impulse response of our LTI system. Let us solve another problem. We have to find the output of a causal LTI system. It is characterized by the difference equation y of n minus 3 by 4 y of n minus 1 plus 1 by 8 y of n minus 2 is equal to 2x of n. This is the same LTI system from our previous problem. We are giving an input x of n, which is 1 by 4 to the power n u of n. While solving the previous problem, we already found the frequency response of this LTI system. So let us write it down. Now the input x of n is of the form a raised to n u of n, and a here is 1 by 4, which is less than 1. So we can use the result. Fourier transform of x of n will be 1 by 1 minus a is 1 by 4 e raised to minus j omega. We know the output y of e raised to j omega will be the product of x of e raised to j omega and h of e raised to j omega. So we get this. In the denominator, we have a 1 minus 1 by 4 e raised to minus j omega. We are again multiplying it with 1 minus 1 by 4 e raised to minus j omega. So we can simplify it like this. 2 divided by 1 minus 1 by 2 e raised to minus j omega multiplied by 1 minus 1 by 4 e raised to minus j omega squared. Now we have to use partial fraction expansion to write it in this form. A by 1 minus 1 by 4 e raised to minus j omega, b by 1 minus 1 by 4 e raised to minus j omega squared, plus c divided by 1 minus 1 by 2 e raised to minus j omega. You can replace e raised to minus j omega by z and try to find them. The only difference is here we have a square term also. But you remember how we solved it in the Laplace transform. You can use the very similar method and find a, b and c. I did it for the last two problems, so I would suggest you try to do it. If you do that, you will get a is equal to minus 4, b is equal to minus 2 and c is equal to 8. Let us replace them. Now to find y of n, the output of our system, we need to use inverse Fourier transform. It is easier to find the inverse Fourier transform of this term and this term because we already have the result. Fourier transform of a raised to n u of n, if magnitude of a is less than 1, is 1 by 1 minus a e raised to minus j omega. Here a is 1 by 4 less than 1. Here a is 1 by 2 less than 1. So we can easily find their inverses. It will be of this form. The problem is with this one. It is of the form 1 by 1 minus a e raised to minus j omega squared. We actually already did that in a previous problem. We had to find the inverse Fourier transform of 1 by 1 minus alpha e raised to minus j omega whole square, and we found that it is n plus 1 alpha raised to n u of n. Let us bring it back with us and write as a result. Fourier transform of n plus 1 a raised to n u of n is of the form 1 by 1 minus a e raised to minus j omega whole square if magnitude of a is less than 1. Here we have minus 2 divided by 1 minus 1 by 4 e raised to minus j omega whole square. Coefficient is minus 2, that doesn't matter, and a is 1 by 4, which is less than 1. So using this, we can write the output y of n is going to be inverse Fourier transform of this one will be minus 4 1 by 4 to the power n u of n. Inverse Fourier transform of this term will be minus 2 n plus 1 multiplied by 1 by 4 to the power n u of n plus inverse Fourier transform of the last term will be 8 1 by 2 to the power n u of n. There is u of n in all of these terms. We can take it out as common. Then we can write y of n is equal to minus 4 1 by 4 to the power n minus 2 into n plus 1 multiplied by 1 by 4 to the power n plus 8 into 1 by 2 to the power n, the whole multiplied by u of n. This will be the output of our LTI system if input is 1 by 4 to the power n u of n. So we learned continuous time Fourier series, continuous time Fourier transform, discrete time Fourier series and discrete time Fourier transform. Let us summarize everything. I'll take the continuous time versions first. In continuous time Fourier series, in the time domain, we have the synthesis equation x of t is summation from k equals minus infinity to infinity a k e raised to j k omega naught t. X of t is a continuous time signal and it is periodic in time because Fourier series is taken for periodic signals. In the frequency domain, we wrote the analysis equation ak is 1 by t integral over a time period of t x of t e raised to minus j k omega naught t. Ak was discrete in frequency and it was aperiodic. In continuous time Fourier transform, the synthesis equation was x of t is 1 by 2 pi integral from minus infinity to infinity x of j omega e raised to j omega t d omega. X of t here is continuous in time and x of t is an aperiodic signal because Fourier transform is generally for aperiodic signals. In the frequency domain, we have the analysis equation x of j omega. It is integral from minus infinity to infinity x of t e raised to minus j omega t dt. X of j omega is continuous in frequency and it is aperiodic. Let us go to the discrete time version. In discrete time Fourier series, in the time domain, we can write the synthesis equation x of n is equal to summation where k takes any n consecutive integer values a k e raised to j k 2 pi by n n. X of n is a discrete time signal and x of n is also periodic in time because Fourier series is for periodic signals. In the frequency domain, we have the analysis equation ak is equal to 1 by n summation where k takes any n consecutive integer values x of n e raised to minus jk 2 pi by n n. Ak is a discrete frequency function and it is periodic. For a discrete time Fourier transform, in the time domain we have the synthesis equation 1 by 2 pi integral over an interval of 2 pi x of e raised to j omega e raised to j omega n. X of n here is a discrete time signal and x of n is also aperiodic because Fourier transform generally is taken for aperiodic signals. In the frequency domain, we have the analysis equation x of e raised to j omega is summation from n equals minus infinity to infinity x of n e raised to minus j omega n. X of e raised to j omega is a continuous frequency signal and it is periodic in frequency. So that's all about it for today. See you in the next video. And don't forget to subscribe.